friends, it's Mia Verde here. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about burnout as usual. If you are a professional woman in a corporate space, or if you have experience on any level burnout and want to know how to move forward, what to do, how to recover, and how to overcome it, then you are in the right place. If you have survived burnout, you are in the right place. So this is me sharing my journey and some of the things that I've learned as I've gone through and now overcome the problem of burnout. And yeah, this is where we are. So thank you for joining. It is great to have you here. Come on in, get comfortable. Today we are going to kind of pick up where we left off in the last vlog, where I talked about how did I get here? How did I get to a place where I felt so burned out, and how did I get the opportunity to even let a distraction come in that could allow me to become burned out? And the answer to that was I got tired and I took a break from pursuing my purpose. Now, I know many of you might ask, well, if it's your purpose, it's your God-given purpose, and you know, this was something that you were built to do, how could you get tired? Well, let's not make any mistakes. Even when you're operating in purpose and working in purpose, it's not the most easy thing to do, and you will get tired. That's perfectly normal. But when you're operating in purpose, your supports and your path is very different. Everything you do is done with the intent of kingdom business. And we talked a little bit about that yesterday. So after the pandemic, I got a little tired and a little discouraged because things had shifted so much. And it was challenging for me to see what was ahead. And at the same time, I got a wonderful opportunity that would give me the opportunity to take a little break. In my mind, I was like, I'm going to take a little break. I'll continue my purpose down the road. You know, I'll pick it back up once I've rested, right? Not knowing that it would serve as a little bit of a distraction. Although, again, a good thing versus a God thing. You can absolutely have something good, but if it's not what was intended for your purpose, it could be a distraction. It could be a distraction, and it could kind of take you off on a separate path that takes you further away from what your purpose is. But the good news is God uses it all, and he will bring it back around, and you will still be able to use and grow and learn from that distraction. Or, you know, sometimes the distraction is by design. So that is what we are talking about today. So that's what caused me to take a break from pursuing my purpose. In my mind, I really thought I was just taking care of myself. Like I said, the pandemic was mentally taxing for all of us, or most of us, especially the shift in the corporate space. And me as a consultant, I was working primarily in manufacturing at the time. So as a consultant, it became scary, the thought of going in. Now you have to remember, work from home and a lot of, you know, telecommuting and remote work was not as prevalent as it is today. The pandemic, you know, people were doing it. It had been heard of, but it was like few and far between. Most people still went into the office, and in a manufacturing environment, that really remote work really doesn't work, right? You have to physically be in, you know, a plant, or in, you know, on the actual site to or a warehouse or wherever you work, but on the actual site to be able to maintain operations. So the consulting that I did at the time was organizational development. And I needed to be on site and able to meet with, you know, the relevant people, train employees, train managers, do all those things. And so I honestly found myself not wanting to be on site anymore. I think the pandemic really shook my confidence in being safe and wanting to be around all those people. And so after that opportunity came where I didn't have to do that anymore. It was still my consulting. I was able to consult remotely, and then I was offered another opportunity because of that, and I ended up staying with that organization. So yeah, that was, and like I said, it was a good thing, And further down, when we start talking about this a little more, you'll see that even though it may not have been one of the things on my list, on my path to purpose, it still was by design. God allowed it because he knew he was going to use it, right? He knew he was going to use it for the greater good. Little did I know what I was in for in that way, right? From a growth and from a development standpoint, it was very necessary in order to get me to that next level of where I am today. So I took a detour, and it became a distraction from my purpose, right? What was supposed to be a quick break for me sent me in the opposite direction. And while it was doing that, it also did not feed me enough to sustain my purpose as far as me working towards the impact that I know I'm supposed to have on the people that I'm sent to help. So I was tired. I didn't want to consult or do, coaching. I am a certified coach, life and executive coach. So a lot of the things that I did before, I was very busy. Again, I had my corporate convert program, and I had just multiple irons in the fire, and it was all working, and it was all very purposeful to impact those that I know were called to forward the kingdom, right? So yeah, I just that opportunity, although great, took me away from that. And it was a refreshing break at first until I found myself again feeling a little empty, because now the impact that I was having, again, also great for the organization, was not what I was supposed to be doing, technically. And I would even venture to say, the one thing about me is I would always be proud and say, you could put me in any situation and I will do what I need to do for God's people, right? And that's the mindset I had going in. But again, it wasn't focused in that way, and I found myself performing for other reasons. So I would ask you, what is your why at this point? What is your why? I think that's a pertinent point. Like, what is the why? Why are you working so hard at this point? Because there's a disconnect from, again, God's purpose for you is not vanity. It's not wealth in a way. He wants you to be wealthy, absolutely. But it's not greed. It's not vanity. It's not pride. And some of those things, let's be honest with ourselves. Did we take a promotion, or did we take on more responsibility? Was it for a noble or righteous reason? Or was it for, if I make more money, I can afford a bigger house. If I make more money, I can get a better car. If I make more money, if I have this title, if I do this, look at what my career might be. This will be, the thing that propels me into the spotlight. Or let's really start thinking about our whys. My why changed. If I really am being honest, my why changed. And that's when the burnout started. Because there was nothing pushing me and motivating me to work as hard as I had been working in the past. So the supply, in essence, was not keeping up with the demand. And the supply for me was the impact that I was having on people and helping them find their purpose and do what they needed to do. So I was no longer doing that. My why turned into money. My why turned into the desires of, the material desires that I had. I've never been big on titles. They always came to me. But I'm just being honest. Material things, material wants and needs, and financial desires, it was very attractive to me at the time. And so that was something that was a distraction. And as a result, the emptiness crept in. And it took me a long time to stop and say, why? I have to realign myself with the true why, the true reason that I am doing what I'm doing. So that's another step. So we talked about boundaries. We talked about, what else did we talk about? Boundaries. We talked about revisiting our dreams. And today I want you to really think about why you took on the amount of responsibility you did. And this is for, again, women in corporate spaces. I'm not talking about the burnout from women. Burnout comes in many forms. I'm not talking about the burnout that women experience from raising families or, having no help or things like that. I'm talking about corporate burnout. Why? What is your why, right? Are you mission-based? And if you're mission-based, that's fine. But at what point, maybe the original intent was good. Maybe the original intent was even God. But at what point did it shift? At what point do you remember, if you really go back and self-reflect, what changed? What changed? Now, if you come back and say, well, even from day one, it was too much, then you took on too much. Then it was never in alignment then. And your burnout was just, you were unqualified for what you were doing. And you needed some type of support to help grow yourself into, the role or whatever you took on. But I'm talking about the people that we were doing fine. The intentions were there. And then something shifted. The demand kept growing and you could not sustain, you could not supply that. And you are not supplying that at this point. And you want to know, how do I get out of this? I think at this point, it's the why. Why are you doing it? And I think that would help connect you with what your next step needs to involve, right? Therapy is always a great option. I am a certified life coach, and I do in career transition coaching and executive coaching. I'm not a licensed therapist though, but it does, all of the coaching and therapy helps, right? And so I think in exploring that, sometimes we need help exploring that. Sometimes it takes someone else to ask us those hard questions that we run from, that we don't want to really ask. What's driving this need? Are you a people pleaser? I don't think most successful corporate women are not people pleasers, because we have to make hard decisions. And in order for us to successfully do that, we cannot be people pleasers. So that's very rarely the answer. But again, there's a variety of options there. So you would have to decide what that looks like. But here's the good news, right? This sounds so gloom and doom, and that's how I felt. That's how I felt in the moment, in that season when I was so burnt out. Like, I don't see how I'm going to get out of this. I've now, become dependent on a lot of things, and there are elements that I still thoroughly, enjoyed of the things that I was doing. I just didn't like I didn't like how it was making me feel and the amount of demand that was placed on me. And I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was in a fog, and I felt like I could not continue at that pace. And it was kind of like, again, the imposter syndrome that comes in that says, how am I can't continue, but I can't go back either. I can't go back. So what am I going to do? But so the other thing I want to talk about is if you really think about, so now you're thinking about the why, think about the things that you've developed, skills or mindsets or relationships, whatever it is. What has God developed in you as a result of that season in your life, right? If this season is causing you to develop new strength, new resilience, and even though you're tired, maybe 5 years ago you would have never even made it this far, right? Maybe you look at things from a new perspective because you're going through and you've suffered through or are suffering through where you are now. So really think about and reflect, what is God developing in you as a result of going through this trial, right? Again, like I said, he's going to use it, and that is one of the things that will be a plus that will come out of this. What are you developing? And I think on the flip side, maybe there are some things he had to kill, right? Sometimes we go through the wilderness and we suffer, and it's allowed because there are things in us that have to be redirected, and for us to be in position for the next level, for what he wants for us, there are some things that have to die off. And I say that to where, like, maybe you were very judgmental. Maybe you were, what are some things that organizational wise, like maybe I wasn't as disorganized, but I had to reach a new level of organization for the demand that was put on me. So maybe that learning to work with different people that you've never had to work with before, right? I've worked with a variety of people in different industries, and yet and still there was another pocket of people that I had not worked with before, and it served very challenging. And I was able to learn how to not only work through it, but embrace it and actually enjoy it at one point, right? And know how to maneuver through that. So there are tons of things. I think if you go through and make a list, like during that season, prior to the burnout, all the way up into what had to change in you in order to even attempt to keep up or even attempt to be successful. What are some of the things you had to change? Some of the things you had to get rid of? Some of the, habits or things that wouldn't work in the space that you were in order to try to survive. So that is important too, because again, I mentioned in the last vlog, the new season that we are moving in, that we are moving towards, is going to require a new you. This is a new you. This is going to be a better version of you. And this is growth. Growth is painful. Growth can be painful sometimes. And I think, especially at our age, women of our age, we think we're done growing. Your 20s, you're expected to make all kinds of mistakes, teens, 20s. And somewhere between 30s and 40s, we get kind of we get kind of comfortable saying, hey, I've done my work. It's time to coast on out. You're not perfect at that. You are still growing. There will always be a new you that is required for a new level. And I know I personally forgot that. I'm like, I've grown so much over each decade, and I've done so much work for, self-development. Who would have thought? I wouldn't have. That, nope, it's time to stretch some more. And it was not me I didn't seek that out. I didn't seek that growth out. This situation forced me to do that. So maybe think about that. Maybe that's another thing that's happening as a result of it. It's all by design. Even if this may be considered as a misstep or a wrong turn, God knew you were going to do it before you did it. Know that. And he allowed it because he was going to use it. So that's the other point I want to make. What else I got, y'all? This is so good. I hope this is making sense to y'all. Please comment. I would love to hear your thoughts. Let's see. Yeah, so make sure you comment. Sis, I would love to hear your stories and what you've what you've sacrificed as a result to get where you are, and what are some of the things that you look forward to picking back up? What are some of the things? How do you plan on taking care of yourself going forward? So yeah, I think that's all. I'm going to end the vlog here, but I want to leave you with this. God took you the long way for a reason, and I am so excited to be a part of the new you and what's to come in your life. I really am. So again, I am trying to build a community of professional women who have suffered and overcome burnout and are living in their new selves and in their new state, not state location, but in the new state, meaning a sense of self, your new sense of self, and your new state of being. And yeah, living in your purpose, working in your purpose. And I am so excited. I wanted, for us to all be a part of each other's journey. So yeah, comment down below. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to share. And be sure to like, y'all. Hopefully this helps. And let me know what else you would like to hear. So have a wonderful day. I hope you are super productive, but make sure you take some time out for yourself. Take care of yourself. And I will see you next time. Bye.